Very good news for chess fans, as this week another top tournament is taking place in China. It's the Shenzhen Masters event with 8 players, 4 from China, 4 foreigners. And among them, Anish Giri, world's number 4, who had a great tournament in Tata Steel earlier in January. And let's see if he is able to keep up his good form from that event. He is playing in round 1 with the white pieces against Vladislav Artemiev from Russia, a very strong grandmaster, rated over 2700. And it's a game, like all the other games in this event, with a time control of 90 minutes for 40 moves. And after 40 moves, you get an additional 30 minutes. And every move, the players get a 30-second increment as well. So it's a long time control, but in fact, this is a very short game, but a lot of spectacular things are happening. Let me show you what happened. Anish Giri starts with 1 e4, and we get to see the Spanish opening, the Ruy Lopez with the move bishop b5, a6, attacking the bishop, bishop a4, knight f6, castling kingside, bishop e7, and white goes for the system with the move d3. That is very logical move to protect the pawn on e4, and now, because the pawn is protected, white is actually threatening to win a pawn by taking on c6, followed by knight takes e5. Therefore, black plays here the move b5, attacking the bishop. The bishop goes back to b3. And here black has a big choice. Is he going to castle here first or to play the move d6? Well, there's something to say for both moves. Let me quickly explain to you the main difference. Well, if you do play the move d6, the idea is that after the move a4, you can place your bishop on d7. And now, after ab5, you see that the rook on a8 is protected by the queen. So there are some advantages to start with the move d6. In the game, Artemiev played here the move castling kingside, which is also possible, but after the move a4, black is not able to develop the bishop to d7 and protect with the queen the rook on a8. It's possible to play the move bishop b7, but in general in these structures the bishop is not doing too well on b7, as it's not able to exert pressure against the pawn on e4 because it's well defended by the pawn on d3. Therefore, Artemiev goes for the setup with rook b8, but after a takes b5, a takes b5, we have an open file for the rook on a1, and I think in these structures only white can be a bit better in these structures. But anyway, it's a very solid setup for black, but let's see what is happening in the next few moves. Here, Giri played the move knight c3, so the knight is doing great. It keeps an eye on the pawn on b5. In certain cases, the knight can come to d5, and there are other ideas as well. d6 is played, so maybe at some point bishop g4 with the idea to pin the knight on f3 and get a knight into d4 is black's idea. Therefore, the move h3 is played. White also has similar ideas with something like bishop g5, probably trying to trade off the bishop for the knight and get a nice grip on the d5 square. So black also plays the move h6. And interestingly, this position has been reached in a couple of games played by Artemiev last year. So I'm pretty sure that Giri had all prepared it. And well, in these games, the moves rook e1 and also the move bishop d2 has been played against Artemiev, but Giri goes for the move bishop e3. And in my opinion, this is a very logical move, very active square for the bishop, controlling the d4 square. And who knows, maybe white at some point wants to play here the move d4 at the right moment, of course. Well, black goes for the plan with rook e8. And now queen d2 played. So the queen is protecting the bishop, the rooks are connected. White is having a very nice, solid position. So what is black going to do? Well, when I was looking at this position, I was thinking the standard plan in these kind of Ruy Lopez positions is to drop back with the bishop to f8. This was not played in the game, but it's a very important moment to analyze a bit because it's a mistake. Let's see why. There is a big tactical shot. Unexpectedly, you can take on b5. The big idea is that after rook takes b5, there is bishop a4. You're hitting the rook. You're hitting the knight on c6, so you're about to win a pawn. Well, the idea to take on b2 and keep the material balance even, there is queen c3 with an attack on the rook, and the rook is in trouble. Even if it goes back to b8, there's bishop takes c6, attacking the rook on e8. And if you play bishop d7, all of a sudden there's bishop a7, and look at this, the rook is just trapped. After rook c8, It's bishop b7 and white is winning the exchange. I thought this was a very remarkable tactical idea. I had never seen it before, and that's why I wanted to show it to you. So after the move queen d2, Artemiev played differently. He played a move bishop e6. So he's challenging the bishop on b3, and obviously white doesn't want to allow black to take on b3, as that would ruin the pawn structure. So now Giri decides to take on e6. Interesting move, bishop takes e6, f takes e6, and these kind of structures you often see in the Rue Lopez or even in the Italian opening. So is this pawn on e6, is it helping black, like it controls the center, it prevents the white knight from getting to d5? Is black able to use the half-open f-file at some point with a rook and launch some sort of a kingside attack? Or it's just a weakening of black's kingside? We will see in a few moves. Knight e2, the knight comes around and is on its way to the kingside. Here, various options for black, and Artemiev surprised me here a bit with the move queen c8. I felt that the queen is maybe better placed on d7 to connect the rooks, but his idea is always to be able to move around with the knight from d8 to f7, so the knight will come over to that side of the board. And if white tries to enter with a rook on a7 and try to gain control over the open file, then you can try to play the move rook b7 and aim for the exchange of rooks. That's why the queen goes to c8. It also keeps the pawn on e6 defended. White played here the move knight g3. So what is the knight doing here? Well, not really clear yet, but it's at least guarding its own king. And now, big moment, the critical moment of the game already, as Artemiev continued here with his plan of knight d8. The knight is on its way to f7 to guard the black king, but he certainly underestimated white's next move. And look at this, bishop takes h6 is played. It's a piece sacrifice and white is getting only 2 pawns for it. But look, the black king is just wide open. Is white already threatening something? Well, of course, there are ideas to go knight g5, maybe knight h5, and very soon it can just be checkmate. What should black do? Well, certainly the move knight h7 doesn't help because of queen g6 with a double attack on the king and the rook. If the king protects the rook, well, then the knight on h7 can just be taken. So that is not a good idea. And therefore, Artemiev played the move knight f7, bringing that knight into defense, attacking the queen. But of course, the queen goes to g6 with check. And the king got to keep the knight defended. So the king can't go into the corner. Then the knight will be taken. King f8 was played in the game by Artemiev. And now, another very instructive moment, because you are just having 2 pawns for the piece. Is white having enough compensation? Well, it all depends if white is just able to get more pieces into the attack. And now there's a very spectacular idea, which was not played by Giri. He played instead the move knight h2, which is an interesting move, but I want to show you the following shot. White can play here this move, knight g5. This is such a difficult move. On one hand, you're threatening checkmate, but you don't want to exchange pieces. If you take on g5, more and more pieces are coming off the board, and if white takes back on g5, well then with the move king f7, black is absolutely okay and ready to gain control with a move like rook g8, forcing the queen to leave. But after putting that knight on g5, white's big idea here is to play the move f4. So by moving the knight away from f3, you're able to play the move f4, all with the intention of opening up the f-file and get access to the black king. If you do take on f4, then it's rook takes f4 with ideas to go rook f1, and it's going to be checkmate in a few moves. You can even take the knight on g5. Even if you go back with a knight to f7, it is knight h5 and black's position is falling apart. Very soon white is going to take on f6. Of course, black cannot take on h5 because of checkmate on f7. Well, this is just one very important tactical line, but it was not played in the game. Not easy to see, frankly speaking, and Anish just slowly continues improving his position. He played the move knight h2. So the knight, what is it going to do? Maybe it's going to g4 at some point. Maybe the idea is to play f4, but definitely it's a slower version compared to the line starting with knight g5. Here, black played the move rook a8, offering the exchange of rooks. You can, of course, go for the exchange of rooks, but Anish says, no, I want to keep that rook on the board. I'm playing the move rook a to e1. And that's a good move, because the rook is on its way to join the attack. What is black gonna do here? Well, bishop d8 was played. Maybe black is hoping to evacuate the king very soon, but there follows the move rook to e3. And here we see that something like king e7, it's not really going to help, because the rook will come to f3, threatening to take on f6. And if the knight goes away, then the knight on f7 can be taken. So that doesn't work. Instead, Artemiev played the move knight h8, attacking the queen. The queen just goes to h6 with check, and the king goes to f7. Rook f3. So now the knight on f6 is pinned, and there's not much black can do. One of the ideas here is, for instance, to play knight h5, or maybe even knight g4, attacking the knight on f6. The knight is pinned, it's not a good defender. Black tried here to move rook g8, but anyway, knight h5. So white is now really threatening to take on f6. That knight has been attacked 3 times by the rook, knight and queen. It is only once defended, and it's actually almost impossible to bring new defenders. If you play the move rook g6, which was played in the game, you're defending the knight, you're attacking the queen, but here you see that after queen takes h8, white regains the piece, is up 2 pawns, and still has a devastating attack. In the game there followed the move bishop e7, but after queen h7, black resigned because it's a check. The knight, of course, is not allowed to take the queen because of the pin. And after the king goes away, let's say it goes to f8, you can just take on g6 and you're even a rook up. Well, that was just a crushing victory in only 27 moves. Do you like this video? And if you feel like you learned something, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate this support. And I will keep you posted on this event, because it's a big battle for high rating places in the world's ranking list. Anish Giri is trying to get closer to world's number 3. And of course, there's also the Prague Masters tournament. Let's see what the next couple of days will bring for us. A lot of exciting games. Let's see. Thanks for watching. See you soon again.